Greetings and suffocations, boys and ghouls, and welcome back to another episode of Colecast, the podcast for all of us. And today is going to be a really awesome and fun episode as we continue our month's theme with Halloween. And of course, we got to talk about horror movies. And I myself, I've been a huge fan of horror movies the majority of my life. I have always loved horror movies. But I knew when I was doing this, was going to do this podcast, there was only one man I could turn to who I could talk about with this. I want to introduce you guys to a horror aficionado, if you will, Cousin Mike.
Hello, what's up?
Mike has been watching horror movies, since you were like a little guy, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, my dad got me started on horror movies when I was way too young.
See, for me, it was kind of a reverse thing. It was like a tainted fruit, I couldn't get, So what were your earliest memories of horror? Like, just your dad, just letting you watch pretty much whatever?
Oh, yeah, I could remember just chilling, playing on the floor with my Star Wars toys or whatever, and then Dad would be watching, whatever was on HBO at the time, which was, quite some time ago. And, something would come on, and I'm trying to think. One of the ones I remember the first was called The Beast Within.
Beast Within. That name sounds familiar, but what was that one about?
It's sketchy at best. It was about an alien rapist. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's as good as it sounds.
So the alien come down to reproduce and shit?
Exactly.
Oh man.
But it raped people.
I shouldn't be laughing, but it's fucking awesome. No, it's not awesome. That's terrible. But the concept of it. And that's the great thing, horror movies, you can get by with just pretty much about anything. Now my earliest memories is kind of different because, like I said, it was this forbidden fruit. I couldn't really watch anything. And I can remember my first introduction was I was in grade school and going to the library, and there was these series of books on the Universal monsters. And that's how I kind of got hooked on it. I was like, oh man, what the hell is the Wolfman and the Dracula and Frankenstein and all this stuff? And then it's it still pisses me off this day because the Invisible Man book, I couldn't see him at all. Okay, that was lame. Yeah, that was pretty dumb. But I remember those, and then I badgered the shit out of my parents to watch R-rated movies for the longest time, and they wouldn't budge because grew up strong Christian household. We gotta go to church. I had a 3-year undefeated streak of Sunday school perfect attendance, which is pretty fucked up to think of with how I turned up. But yeah, so I finally badgered the shit out of them, and they finally said, okay, fine. And then it was just teenage years, man. It was the floodgates were open, and I watched everything I could get my freaking hands on, man. I did everything from slasher movies to 80s, all that bizarre random shit, everything from freaking prom night to sleepaway camp and shit. And just the obscure titles. What would you say is just one of the most obscure titles or horror movies you could think of off the top of your head that was just stupid, but good in a sense of horror? No, man.
I've seen some pretty stupid ones, but luckily I've forgotten them. I get a kick out of the movies I don't know if you've seen The Stuff. It's kind of a take off of The Blob, but they use whipped cream. That's the stuff, and it you eat it, it eats you from inside. It's a great movie. I mean, you got to check it out because seriously, it's like The Blob, but a little funnier.
But I can remember would you classify Attack of the Killer Tomatoes as one? I would. Yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah. That you start getting into the trauma movies.
Trauma, fuck, man. Oh my god. So yeah, I went through a period there in like high school into my early 20s, where I was like a diehard Trauma fan. And it was like I had like pretty much the majority of them on like VHSs and shit. Like Toxic Avengers, you had to have those. And I can remember first when I got introduced to Trauma was like flipping through channels, man. USA Network, up all night. You used to watch that, right? Oh yeah. That was a great thing too. Is like all the different like horror movie, like like hosts. Like, well, not that Up All Night was one, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But anyway, so yeah, flipping through, and they had a Toxic Avenger marathon on, and I remember coming across as like the third one, and it was like the Toxic Avenger was fighting Satan, and like Satan was like a dragon with like fucking a mustache and shit. It was weird as fuck. I was like, what is this?
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh man. So the funny thing is what Trauma did, because Trauma was like the big thing with Trauma was it was like low budget like movies, but like with all the gore effects and shit in them. And it was like like I can remember they had like the same car crash sequence they used in like all their fucking movies.
Yes.
But it was like I can remember watching that, and then there was the Class of Nukem High series they did. You ever watch those?
That wasn't that bad.
Yeah, those weren't that bad. And then they had some real obscure ones like fucking Surf Nazis Must Die.
I liked it.
Which was good. Redneck Zombies. You ever see that one?
No, I don't think I have, and I'm not sure. I'm upset that I haven't.
They did, and then they what was really cool, James Gunn actually got his start with Trauma. He directed Tromeo and Juliet, which Tromeo and Juliet was obviously a take on Romeo and Juliet, in case you didn't know. And then there's just some other random ones too, like Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD. Trauma War is a really good one.
Yeah, I watched that recently.
That's good. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good one.
I don't know.
Really? Well, then again, I say that, and this was like probably 15, 20 years ago I saw it, so you're probably right. Well,
what about what is it? Poultry Guys?
Oh, Poultry Guys? Yeah.
That one's
that's still a decent one. Like, I don't know what was the last one they did, because I mean they still make movies.
Oh, they still make them,
but I don't think because there for a while they were putting out like fucking 6 or 7 movies a year or something like that, something stupid. But now I think they put one out every other couple years. And then, of course, like we're talking about Trauma, we have to give a shout out to the patriarch, if you will, Lloyd Kaufman, which he's a unique cat. You ever get a chance, you guys should like look up some shit on him or watch some interviews and stuff. He's a pretty funny guy. But yeah, Trauma. I tell you, one I really grew up on as a kid was. Did you ever watch? I'm sure you have the Full Moon series. Like the movie company, they did like the Puppet Master movies.
Oh, I've seen the Puppet. No, I don't think.
Oh, Full Moon was the shit, man. So they had, they did the Puppet Master series. They did. You ever watch Subspecies?
I'm gonna have to say no.
Subspecies was a pretty cool one. It was about like all these mutated vampires with like powers and shit, like beyond like regular vampire stuff. They also did some other like stuff like that was some of their series. They had. They did some other sci-fi ones too. Like there was the Doll Man, which was like essentially like a cop who gets sent to our world from a different planet, and when he comes here, like the atmosphere or something makes him like a fucking 10-inch like action figure, more or less. Yeah, it's funny too because there's all sorts of fun like dick jokes in there too, and he's got like a gun that's like fucking bigger than him or something. It's
that sounds amazing.
They also did one called Demonic Toys, which was the pretty much toy store only possessed toys that want to fucking murder you. That. And they did a crossover with Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. But Full Moon was awesome, man. It was like if memory serves me correctly, I think it was like it was its own company, but it was like they were distributed by like Paramount Pictures. Like they would put out all their VHSs and shit. And it was a pretty well run company because it was like they at the end of the movies they always had like stay around for like Full Moon magazine exclusive or some shit like that. And it was like a feature they'd have after the movies. It was like 20 minutes or something. And this is way before fucking internet and shit. where it was like you could find out about like what's the next movie going to come out and stuff like that. And that's
The good
how
old days.
that was the good old days, man. But that was one I watched. So when you're growing up, what do you primarily watch? Like, was there a specific genre that you find yourself more like into, or
Well, growing up, I mean, of course, between you and I, we have a pretty big age gap. I'm a little bit older than you. I watched a lot of Sammy Terry.
oh yeah,
So in the beginning, I was geared towards the old black and whites, like the Screaming Skull and Vincent Price type.
oh man, like House of Wax and stuff.
Exactly.
Nice.
So that was primarily, but then my dad always liked the off the wall, what was on HBO. So I caught a lot of stuff. Like I remember one of the first horror movies that really stuck out in my mind. I remember watching it by myself when I was 5 or 6 years old. Was The Thing.
Now, is this the original or the
It's
John Carpenter?
This is John Carpenter.
Oh fuck.
I remember just sitting at home all by myself. My parents always used to let me stay up late on the weekends because I'd watch Sammy Terry. And then after Sammy Terry was over, this came on. I stayed up and I watched this thing, or The Thing, and it blew me away. And after that, that's all I really cared about was horror movies.
So John Carpenter's The Thing's got what you really got you hooked.
That's pretty much what got me.
That's
just
awesome.
Nailed.
Man, that's such a good fucking movie too.
Oh, I worship that movie. I watch it too much.
And it's one of those things too. It still holds up to this day.
Mm.
And I mean, there's so many like, and we're kind of going across the board here, but there's just so much when we're talking about like horror movies. But like the directors, and you got to mention John Carpenter for sure. Fuck, man. I mean, not only and it's his sci-fi stuff too, but I mean, not only The Thing, of course, Halloween. You got to talk about the Halloween series, which I think he only really did the first one, right? As far as a director, I don't think he directed. I think he was a producer on them, but
I think he did 1 and 2.
Okay, yeah, I could see him doing 2. I don't think he did Season of the Witch.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
No, after 2, he was done. It was him and I can't remember her name. He had anyway, somebody that worked with him on the first one. She had a lot to do with the second one, if I'm not mistaken. But no, the third one was done totally by someone else. Of course, it was supposed to be a branch off into its own separate entity, which
Yeah.
kind of upset people because it didn't.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah,
It didn't go over
I think though, over the years though, it's grown on. Like it's kind of like you either love it or you hate it. There's not like an in between or anything like that.
I used to hate it, but I've grown to like it. It's still not one of my favorites.
Yeah, and there's definitely better ones, but it like for what it is for what they did.
Exactly.
So, I also you got to mention Wes Craven. Love Wes Craven stuff.
I definitely like A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, Nightmare. What about Hills Have Eyes?
Oh,
That's good. And then of course, Last House on the Left, badass movie.
that movie. I am so surprised a movie like that would fly.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah, no shit, because it's like
that's a rough flick.
Yeah, it's still kind of, and that's one of those ones too, where it's still hard to watch to this day.
It is,
but that's the thing. That's about what horror movies are supposed to do, man. They're supposed to like just be literally spine tingling. Like now, Wes Craven. Let me ask you this: how do you feel about the Scream series?
It feels kind of teenage to me.
Yeah,
I like the first. The first one's okay. But I kind of lost interest in it. Maybe it might have been my age at the time when those movies came out.
I agree.
Because I was an older teenager and maybe I was a little too cool for that. At least I thought I was.
I thought the same too, though. The first one was okay. I don't know. I just never got really into the Scream movie. And fuck, I don't know. There's at least 3 of them. I think there's more than that.
The 5th one.
There's 5? Fuck.
Well, it'll be out. If it's not already out, it's coming out soon.
Wow. I can't believe there's that damn many of them.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, too, with horror movies. Like, fuck, you can make sequels upon sequels upon sequels. There's so many damn franchises out there. I mean, it's just kind of like recycle, repeat over again.
Yeah.
There's some that's pretty redundant. I always liked it too when they ran out of ideas and they're like they put them in the most obscure fucking like Jason in space. Like what was that? Jason X. It's like fuck it, let's put him in space.
Okay, I'm going to say this for the record. After part 6, there is no such thing as Jason.
Yeah.
7, 8. Okay, I kind of like Manhattan.
I was going to say I like Takes Manhattan just because of the stupidity of it. Yeah.
But what exactly is 9?
Oh, is that Jason Goes to Hell?
You're right.
Yeah.
See, that's how much I care. It's 1 through 6 for me. I'll take Manhattan, but otherwise.
The only thing I'll say about Jason Goes to Hell was the ending. Because you're like, oh, fuck, it's happening finally. Because remember, like, he's going down in the lake of fire or whatever, and then Freddy's claw comes up, and you're like, holy shit, this is happening.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way.
Oh, really? Well, to me, it was like a big deal. I can remember, like, getting back in the early 2000s and looking on, like message boards and shit of like fucking like, okay, there's one of these crossover movies. They're not only going to do Freddy versus Jason, but they're going to do Michael Myers versus Pinhead and like all these other like characters. But of course, Freddy versus well, do you count Alien versus Predator? I mean, maybe, but that movie sucked dick though.
It was done wrong.
Yeah, could have been done a lot better, but no. But it didn't take away from those franchises, though. I don't think.
I don't think it did. No.
Yeah, but I can remember like getting on those message boards and like there was like one. I think it was Freddy versus Jason versus Michael Myers, and I remember reading the ending of it. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool as fuck. And it was like it ended up like fucking all 3 of them killed each other, and then a portal opens up, and next thing you know, who pops out is Ash from Evil Dead,
Yes.
right? And then here's where it gets really cool. And then he's there like, oh, I guess I've won or whatever, even though, he wasn't in the contest to begin with. But then there's like something on the ground. He picks it up, and it's the fucking puzzle box from Hellraiser. I was like, that would be dope as shit. But
it would be kind of fun to see some crossovers like that.
Yeah, and you know what? That's one thing that you would thought you would have seen, but I mean, maybe that's the next thing. Probably not, but they're just gonna rehash and shit over and over again. Did you ever see the new Nightmare on Elm Street? The one that had the guy from Little Children. Fuck, I can't think of his name, and he was Rorschach and Watchmen. Jackie Earle Haley.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I thought it was okay, but I mean, Robert Englund's always going to be Freddy Krueger to me. I mean, that he made that character. I mean, you couldn't have. I don't think you can do one of those without Robert Englund. How do you feel about the Nightmare series?
I could say I'm okay with 1 through 3. It's kind of after that I kind of lose interest in it.
I liked. Yeah, that's a fair, because 3 is Dream Warriors, right?
Love that one.
That's great. Yeah, you got to have that in there. I really did like Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That was pretty badass, I thought.
It's been a while since I've seen it. Where
they brought back the original cast, and it's like kind of a playoff of like she's
yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then so many franchises out there too. Like we mentioned Pinhead, the Hellraiser franchise was badass. Especially the first couple was pretty sweet. Fuck, how many of those did they do? At least 7, maybe?
Oh no. I think they're up to 11 or 12.
Fuck.
Yeah. They got a little carried away.
Yeah, and that was I think that was the thing too with horror movies. They were so easy to like, well, I shouldn't say easy to make, but they were like, it was kind of like you had a blueprint. I was like, okay, this is going to be in it, we're going to have this effect or whatever. And like you could all budget within like a certain amount to make them, and you had a lot of them that did go like started off cinematic and then they went like straight to VHS DVD shit. Yeah, and it's funny how there's like some series out there. It's like, how the fuck is that? Like Leprechaun, the Leprechaun movies.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I recently purchased all those motherfuckers on Blu-ray for the low price of $9.95.
You got all of them?
I got all of them, man. Well, this is interesting too. How many Leprechaun movies are there?
7 in there.
Yeah, I didn't realize there's that many. This is interesting. The last one was actually produced by WWE.
That's
It's like, what the fuck?
yeah. Did it have a wrestler in it?
Yeah, I had the wrestler Dylan Swoggle, or Hornswoggle, as his character he played in WWE. But yeah,
I don't
yeah,
remember.
he was a dwarf. Here he is a dwarf. So
Oh.
yeah,
Well, that makes it a little more fun.
yeah. But I mean, what was it? Fucking God dang it! What was the? No, was it Warwick Davis? No, who played the Leprechaun? It was the little.
Yeah, I think it was.
Was it Warwick
I
Davis?
think he played the first one.
Yeah, he played. Yeah. Yeah, the first one it had that one got put out by, I think it was Trimark, which Trimark had some some decent horror movies back in
Right.
the day too.
That had Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston was in it.
Yes.
Yeah. I always liked too, like, one thing that was great about horror movies that get you hooked is like the trailers. Like the trailers were just fucking over the top, man. Like we were talking about Trimark. I remember one for I guess it wasn't really a horror, it was like kind of a psychological thriller, but do you remember a movie called The Minus Man? Probably not. It was a dumb fucking movie, but it had like the greatest tagline of any movie because he was the minus man, and it was like, with him, nothing adds up. It's like, what the fuck?
That is the problem with new movies. They do not have taglines.
Yeah, that's true. They don't. They don't.
They that used to be the best. Like,
You gotta have a hook.
Yeah. Do you remember? You've seen Pieces?
I don't think so.
Oh, dude.
Fuck. What's Pieces about?
it's about a chainsaw. Oh, it's what it.
Oh, okay.
People getting cut into pieces.
Pieces. Okay. Yeah.
It's their tagline is it's exactly what you think it is, so that works. Or you don't need you don't need Texas to have a massive.
Oh,
there's
nice.
One that it has two taglines, which you have to have a badass movie to have two taglines.
Yeah.
And both of them work. So it's that good.
Also, you gotta have, like, and I don't think you see this nearly enough too, like, badass poster. You gotta have like a poster. You gotta sell me on this, because back in the day, you're going to like Blockbuster or whatever, man. You're looking at the covers. The covers what's got to get you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like there's some iconic ones out there too. I mean, shit, everybody always. I mean, Halloween's the first one that comes to mind. And I just loved, like, the '80s. I thought had some of the best ones too, man. Like, we just recently did a horror movie massacre at the Shelbyville Skyline Drive-In, and they had some pretty cool stuff there. But they had, like, one of the movies they were showing was Blood Diner, and Blood Diner. What I remember about Blood Diner back in the day was getting hooked on the trailer. Do you remember the trailer where it's like it starts off and it's like it's this guy who's like a mate, or who's talking about like doing a restaurant review and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just like so ridiculous and over the top. But yeah, man, I loved like '80s horror was. What do you think's the best era? I mean, I know that's kind of hard to do, but
80s.
I was gonna say I think '80s is just where it took off with the slasher genre and stuff.
Yeah.
But I respect the shit out of the stuff back in the day, like original, like OG. I mean, even like silent horror movies, like Nosferatu. Like, you can still watch that, and that kind of holds up just because the imagery. You're like, what the fuck, man? And then, like, I grew up, I loved the fucking shit out of the Universal monster movies.
Well, they're all great.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Universal monster one? If you had to pick one.
I'm probably with you on the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I fucking love Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I think that's the best.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that, like, most of those come out in the 30s, but Creature didn't come out until the 50s, so it's like way after. But man, it still gets like classified in there. Do you ever watch any of the old like Hammer movies back in the day?
Oh yeah,
fucking love Hammer Studios out of England, and that was like mainly every other movie had either Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing in it, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like Star Wars reunion.
Yeah.
Or what?
Well, Chris Lee ended up.
Yeah.
He was Count Dooku. So,
yeah.
But yeah, their takes on Dracula and Frankenstein and stuff. But Hammer movies was fucking great, man. What about? And we're kind of jumping around here. What about you got a favorite Stephen King movie?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
I gotta go with Christine's really my favorite.
Christine's a good one. Christine's
it's kind of a tie between Christine and Carrie.
I like man, fuck, it's hard too. I Definitely Pet Cemetery, Children of the Corn are the first couple that come to mind.
We got to back up. We got to back this fucking train up.
Yeah.
The Shining.
The Shining. Yeah, fuck.
Of course, that's a Kubrick film. It's not quite like the story.
And the funny thing is Stephen King fucking hates that movie.
Well,
but you read the book, you get
But that movie, fuck. That movie.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, The Shining it's The Shining. That's all you got to say.
So I guess my top three would be The Shining, and then Christine and Carrie.
And then I would say my guilty pleasure would definitely be Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, I
fucking love Maximum Overdrive.
That's a comedy. For Stephen King. That's what I like about that one.
You should go on YouTube and you may remember this, the trailer for Maximum Overdrive where Stephen King's in it. He's talking and stuff. So, funny story, and this isn't much of a surprise, I don't think, but he was on cocaine that whole fucking trailer. High as fuck. Watch that trailer and you're just like, holy shit, Stephen King. You were fucked up to begin with, bro, but damn. Did you watch, the mini-series shit that would come on TV, too? The Tommy Knockers and fucking... Yeah. I've tried. Okay, so I remember watching those back in the day. Have you tried to go back and watch them?
I did with The Stand.
Oh wow, which that still holds up. My only problem with The Stand is it's too fucking long. But it's understandable. I mean, it's 8 hours in or something like that.
Was it 8 episodes?
I think
that sounds right.
Yeah. It really is. I guess that's true.
Because I think the Tommy Knockers was 4.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when we would watch them, you would get the VHSs. And it was I remember The Stand was fucking, I think you had 4 VHSs.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. The only one I've watched really that kind of holds up was Stephen King's It. And I still you may think I'm crazy, but I kind of, if you put me in a hole or pictured me in a corner, I would probably pick the miniseries over the It movies. Although I like the It movies, but I don't know, there's just something about you know what? Honestly, it comes down to it's one thing and one thing only. That's Tim Curry. If you take Tim Curry out of that equation, it does.
Him
as Pennywise. Yeah. I can. But yeah, one I tried to go back and watch, and it was fucking the shits. Was the Langoliers? You ever tried to go back? Oh my god, that was the one where it's they're in the fucking airport, and there's these fucking creatures or something that are flying around. Gonna eat your fucking asshole out or something. It's just fucking stupid.
Yeah, I think the Langoliers and the Mist are tied together.
Oh yeah.
If I'm not, I'm probably all wrong on that, but I thought.
No, I think you're right. I think it is in some capacity.
Because I know I've heard that Stephen King's stories are all interconnected, and they seem to branch off from each other.
Well, if you think about it, it's kind of all the same idea. It's in some town in Connecticut or some shit, and something supernatural, spooky shit, happens. But yeah, Stephen King had. Obviously, it's one of those things where I think the books mostly are probably better than the films. But there's some pretty rad films out there. I also like Silver Bullet was a good one. I always thought
that's a great movie.
What was the one with Drew Barrymore? Cat's Eye.
She did 2.
Oh, she did 2.
She did 2.
Firestarter.
Firestarter and Cat's Eye.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking of Cat's Eye. I like Cat's Eye, but yeah, Firestarter.
Yeah, she was in that. That's that little the movie. That little
fucking troll fucking
would
thing.
Take her breath.
Yeah. And then so we're talking the 80s, man, and we got to talk, of course, slasher movies. So if you had a Mount Rushmore of slasher killers, famous, who would you say is on there? I mean, horror movie characters that are just iconic. So you got 4 pretty much.
Well, of course, I'm going to go. Jason's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Jason has. I agree. Jason's on there.
Of course, you're going to have Freddy.
I have Freddy.
I got Leatherface.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my mecca. Well, you can say Pinhead.
What about Mike Myers, though?
Oh, man. See, we start counting stuff, and I get all...
See, I think the first 3 that's got to be on there is Michael Myers, Freddy, and Jason.
Yeah,
and then,
right.
God, you could pick, Pinhead. You could put in there Leatherface. fuck, man. There's like,
But Leatherface is. I really should leave Texas. It's not a. They might refer to it as a slasher. I don't know.
yeah,
It's a little different.
right,
But
yeah,
him as a. They made him into a character with like part 2. And,
yeah, yeah. Because really, if you're just basing it off the first one, like completely different.
yeah.
Which fuck, the first one still holds up so good to
Oh,
this day.
that's one of the greatest, absolutely greatest movies I think I've ever seen. When we watched it a couple weeks ago, I still get the same feelings from it as I did the first time I watched it. It's an amazing.
It's a
movie.
true story. I hadn't watched that original one in it's probably been about 10 years.
Oh,
Which is
wow.
fucking crazy. Yeah, but now it's like, oh yeah, I forgot how damn good this is, and I'm going to watch this all the fucking time, like every October.
Oh,
Like, how could I not? You know, how could you not?
It's my movie to where I'm like, man, I feel like watching something, and I can't decide on if I want to start this because it seems like with me, if I put in Friday the 13th Part 1, I'm down for the day because I'm going to watch all 6 of them.
Yeah,
That's me. I got that luxury.
So is that would you? Yeah, so that's definitely probably your favorite series, then you would say.
If I'm going to pick a series, yes.
I'm going to say if I was to pick a series, I'd probably go. I probably would say just because I love the character so much, I'd probably say Nightmare on Elm Street. Just like I say, if you take Robert Englund out of the equation, I don't give a shit. But just seeing him and just the fucking stupid ass puns and the way like he'd kill people, like I loved like him, like fucking what was it? God, now I can't think of it.
Part 3, he takes the actress, picks her up, shoves her into the TV, and then
Oh yeah, well,
I can't remember. Here's your big break or something like that.
I remember 1 too, and I think this was later years. I think this was like maybe 5, where he's playing a video game. Yeah, like he puts the kid in the video game and he fucking kills the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like he's something stupid like "Game over, bitch" or something like that. This is like I love shit like that.
Did you notice how more vulgar he got as each movie?
That's true.
Progressed?
Yeah, that's very true. That's a very good point.
I think I think he said bitch once, and then by part 3 he was like fuck you, and then he just, as it went on, he was rattling.
Which is weird to say, like that he was tame, considering like he was murdering like teenagers and shit. But you know what? I know exactly what you mean, though. It's just like, Freddy was. I dare I say, like, because even though I was kind of sheltered and wasn't like allowed to watch shit like that, I still knew who fucking Freddy Krueger was. Because he was marketed towards kids, really. Fucking dolls. They had the fucking TV show, the video game. Do you remember the 900 hotline you could call in and shit?
No.
Oh yeah, there was like a 1-900 hotline you could call in and like
and talk to Freddy.
You talk to Freddy, and it was like fucking stuff that Robert Englund had like little sound bites and shit. Yeah. And I was always enthralled with that, but it was just like, no, fuck that. Like $2.95 for the first 3 minutes, and then 99 cents additionally.
So it was definitely 90s.
Yeah, 80s into 90s. I'd say like 80s, early 90s. Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, Freddy was very marketable towards kids. You remember the Marvel comic they put out on them? Like they had a Marvel comic magazine in the Yeah, Marvel, wow. And it was like all black and white shit, but it was pretty. Man, fuck! I wish I could remember the artist on that one too.
And it was Freddy.
But it was Freddy. Yeah, it was Nightmare on Elm Street, man. Yeah, it was pretty badass.
It's a shame that sometimes we have to miss things.
Well, that's the thing too with like horror, man. There's just so much shit out there. Like we haven't even really like touched the cusp. I mean, we named some of the big ones and stuff. But I mean, man, there's so many different genres and shit, like the slashers, monster movies, vampires, zombies. Fuck, we haven't even really talked about zombie movies.
We haven't even, see there, I could add to my list 10 or 15 zombie movies.
Like, of course, Night of the Living Dead. Like, my favorite out of all those, though, I'd say is the original Dawn of the Dead.
The 79?
Yes. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
You got me excited now.
Did you ever? I know you have. You remember like the fucking Oh, was it Dario Argento or whatever? Like zombies?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it was the fucking zombie versus the shark.
Oh yeah. That was the first zombie.
Was that the 1st one? Yeah. Oh my god, that was.
Shark can't take on a zombie. Come
Yeah.
on.
Oh man, and then like I tell you, like there's so much content, so much different films from from the past. Like it's hard for me to get any into the newer stuff just because it's like I feel like I've seen it all, you know. But I know that's not the case. But I don't really watch any of the newer stuff. But I think you still watch some like new stuff that comes out.
You got to be watching the new Korean horror.
Oh fuck yeah! We haven't even talked about Japanese stuff. Yeah,
you've got the new Korean horror. That stuff is absolutely disgusting. I mean, they've got great stories behind them too.
Like I can think of some Takeshi Mike films, like what Ichi the Killer. Although I don't know if you'd say that's horror or not, but it's fucked up though. Audition.
Yeah. Oh, that movie's nasty.
Yeah. And then like the only new ones I can really like the stuff that gets released mainstream. I don't get like I never got into the paranormal bullshit like Paranormal Activities and
Right.
like the Annabelle movies. I never really. I don't know, man. It just didn't do nothing for me. Like you know, the one series that like I watched and like I just watched it once and then I recently rewatched it and I was like, you know what? I can still watch this shit. The Final Destination movies.
I never liked those. I'm like the only person.
I can. Well, it's an acquired taste, I think, but it's pretty basic shit, and it's amazing to me that they didn't make like more than 5 of them because it's like they follow the same damn scheme. Like the beginning of it starts off with like a horrible fucking accident where all these people die. Some dude or chick sees the vision. Oh, we're gonna get the fuck out of here, or whatever, and then it happens, and then they go through and they like try to dodge death the whole fucking movie.
So is it the same? Is everyone the same premise?
Yes, but just different stories. Like the first couple is like teenagers and shit. The third one they were at like a fucking. I don't think it was teenagers. They were at like a fucking. Um, oh no, the third one was the roller coaster one. Fourth one is where they're at like a racing car like event or something. And then the fifth one, it was like they're getting ready to go on like a work retreat. And it's like they are in a bus. They rent a tour bus and they're on a bridge, and like the bridge like fucking collapses and shit, and all this terrible stuff happens. But yeah, like you could definitely like there's and it's another one of those things too. I think the reason it worked for me is it's short, sweet. It gets to the point, like less than 90 minutes. You don't need no more than that to tell the story.
It's for short attention spans.
Yes, exactly. So, but man, that series, like I say, but that would be probably the newest shit I would say I can watch. Like, but you're right, the Korean stuff, man, the overseas stuff, that's where the true like horror stuff is. I just don't think there's anything really good released here in North America. Like, if there was, there's just stuff based off that, like fucking back in the day, The Ring was based off of a Japanese movie. But yeah, there's point being, yeah, there's some Japanese ones. All right, so what I'd like to do next here, we're gonna play a little game here on Coldcast, and it's can you guess the horror movies from plot description? Okay, a nuclear family spend the winter at a fancy resort where the son discovers he possesses a unique talent.
The Shining.
Yes, that is correct. Would you mind reading that one, sir?
An unpopular high school girl dreams of going to prom, and it turns out to be life-changing experience after she gets herself out of a sticky situation.
I thought these would be harder. That's Carrie. All right. Boom. Yeah, it's Carrie.
It's Carrie.
Yeah, you don't even. Yeah. Okay. After a long departure, a young man finally returns to his quiet hometown on his favorite holiday.
I'm gonna have to say Halloween.
Oh yeah, it is. That makes sense. It kind of threw me off because I was thinking like,
overthought it.
Yes, exactly.
We're on number 4, right?
Yep.
A couple of avid cinephiles make a few prank phone calls that ultimately lead to them celebrating the closure of a high school.
That's Scream, isn't it? I think.
Shit, your guess is as good as mine.
I think that's Scream. Yep, it's Scream.
Did I miss the part?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I overthought it.
A successful author is inspired to write the ultimate fan fiction after a heroic rescue. Huh.
Misery.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Yep, you're right, Misery. For some reason, I was thinking Unbreakable. I don't know why.
A close-knit group of explorers experience a huge breakthrough while returning from their latest mission.
Oh, that's, isn't that Alien? Or is that the thing? I'm going to say Alien.
You are correct.
Yeah. Alien's such a good fucking movie. All right, real quick, I got to ask you. You can only pick one, Alien or Aliens?
Ooh.
I know, right?
Alien.
I have to too, and it's close though. But Aliens was a great fucking movie.
Yeah, I like them both.
Yeah,
1 through 3.
Even the third one's I never really. Yeah, what was the Alien Resurrection or some shit like that?
Yeah,
the third one was kind of meh at best. I mean, it's watchable, but yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, and I ain't mad at it. A young man with disabilities but limitless ambition rises above his fears and finds redemption on his own terms.
Silver Bullet?
Friday the 13th. Which he didn't really... It was his mom, but whatever. Okay. That's kind of... I don't know.
That one led me astray.
Yeah, that was kind of a bullshit one, in my opinion.
A woman discovers the joys of motherhood and learning how to roll with the punches of being a parent.
Oh, there's like some play on words here. I want to say Rosemary's Baby, but I know that's not what it is. Fuck, I don't know. Oh, it is Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah,
I'll be damned.
Right.
I'll be damned. After rescuing a stray dog, a group of scientists learn to think as one of the animals slowly grows on them. Come on, man.
The thing.
Yes. We don't even need to look. We know. Yeah.
That was easy. A low-level employee gains notoriety he deserves in his town after coming back from a tragic accident.
What was that again? A low-level
employee gains the notoriety he deserves in his town after coming back from a tragic accident.
Fuck, I don't know that one. Huey Halloween. I don't know. Fuck. Comes back. Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was a fucking groundskeeper, wasn't he, or some shit. Oh, see, some of these are kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, an episode we're talking about horror here, and you know, we couldn't complete this episode unless we talk about That Makes a Baker's Dozen. Oh, yeah. We're going to go into our Baker's Dozen of our 13 favorite horror movies of all time. Which is hard. We were talking about this before we started, and it was just like, at first it's like, oh, fuck, I got to come up with 13. And then, like, Mike was saying, oh, yeah, now I got to narrow this down from 75. I mean, there's just so many out there in different, the different genres and shit. But we're going to give it a go. You want to go first, or?
Sure.
All right.
Let me get my list up. It's growing, so I might need to.
Well, we can always do some honorable mentions, because I'm all about those honorable mentions.
Now, this is in no particular order of favoritism. But Texas Chainsaw, I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th 1 and 2. I love those two.
And I think that's another. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah. I mean, you might be able to squeeze 3 in, but I think 1 and 2 stand alone as far as how good they are. Of course, The Nightmare on Elm Street. You can't leave that out. That first movie is just outstanding.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The Exorcist I remember seeing that as a little, I was probably too young to watch that.
Yeah, The Exorcist gets me still to this day. Just the thought that seemed like, I mean, all this stuff we've been talking about, it's kind of been over the top, but that is like the most realistic, kind of like, holy fuck, what if that did happen?
And, plus, I kind of grew up Catholic, and
oh,
so
yeah.
That was kind of a trip to me.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, Jaws.
Love Jaws.
That's a great movie.
That was like the first real, like, big, like, popular, like, box office success horror movie, if you think about it.
Definitely.
I mean, Jaws, they made, like, Jaws everything, Like, Jaws, a board game.
Well,
the video game later on.
I think they learned from Star Wars how that works.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Evil Dead 2, which
Fuck yeah.
is my favorite movie. I love that movie to death.
Love the series, but you're right. The second one's where it's at. Because really, the second one was just like, okay, we've got a bigger budget now. Let's like do some of the really fucked up shit we wanted to do. Because if you think about it, it's kind of a remake of the first one in a sense.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think there was some licensing
Mm-hmm.
things going on with 1 and 2.
Oh,
so
yeah. Which we will be talking about this Friday on our Friday night movie night premiere episode of the Evil Dead series. So don't forget to check that out, kiddos. Sorry, I had to get a plug in.
That's all right. I'm gonna have to go with Halloween. That movie is just what fear is all about.
Halloween's the shit.
Yeah. Lost Boys, Hellraiser,
Oh, yes. Now you're talking.
and then I could probably say another one of my favorites is Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, my God. Holy fuck. How did I not have... Yeah.
Well, I mean,
That's one of my all-time favorites. I completely forgot about that one. I love that fucking movie.
Once you start putting pen to paper, you you go off on this path, and then you never know, you end up with 100 or 150.
I love like that. The soundtrack. That movie is the shit. Like,
oh, definitely.
Yeah. Go on a party. Bah, 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 bah. And I remember the trailer for that too, and it was like the serious movie announcer.
It had a
They want to
tagline.
party all the time.
It had it met all the criteria of a great 80s horror movie.
Poster was the shit. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, so if you don't know, so the premise of the movie is essentially it is a zombie flick, and it's like these guys working at this medical like chemical kind of company, and the old timer takes down the new kid down to the basement, and he's talking about Night of the Living Dead and how this like the government made this fucking gas that brings back the dead, and sure enough, they dumbasses open it up. And just hilarity and chaos ensues. You know what always cracks me up is how fucking in that cast JB Smooth's in that movie. He was in he's a comedian. And he was on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right.
Yeah, he's in that movie.
He is.
Yeah.
Where at?
He's one of the teenagers.
No.
Yeah,
that's not him.
That's him.
No.
The black guy.
That's not him.
Are you sure?
Scout's honor.
Huh? I'm pretty sure it was him.
Look it up.
I will. Well, when in doubt, you could always Wikipedia that shit. So there's your challenge, kids. Look that up. So that was your list. That was pretty grandiose, pretty epic. I know we left some out there, and our list is similar too. So I have to. We're talking Return of the Living Dead. That makes my fucking list. So, okay, I'm sorry, Frankenstein, you're getting cut. Even though Frankenstein, the Boris Karloff version, it gets an honorable mention. Also, another one that I had on my list, but I just had so many I had to give an honorable mention to is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. That's a fucking badass movie. A lesser known movie too, but you guys should check it out.
Gotta see it.
It's a good fucking movie. One thing real quick I just thought of too before I get into my list. Did you go and see like the Grindhouse like when it came out, like the Tarantino Rodriguez?
Yes.
Oh my god! In theaters, that's where it was fucking at. Like,
Oh,
that was awesome. And of course, that spawned Machete from that. Which Machete don't text. Don't forget that, kids. So my baker's dozen. So. And normally I'm one who, like, I try to keep my stuff in order and stuff, but I can't because they're all equally the same. So this is in no particular order. We already mentioned Return of the Living Dead. That's definitely on my list. I'm going to say Pet Sematary. It's probably my favorite Stephen King, so it makes the list. And, one of the reasons I really love that was the neighbor. Oh, yeah, come on to the cemetery. Oh, yeah, you're going to bury. Oh, you don't want to do that now? No, see? Oh, you don't want to go yonder there, see? I just love that fucking neighbor and the way he talked. And that was brutal. Like how he got his, like, ankle sliced. And
Wasn't he the original Herman Munster?
Oh, yeah, that is Herman Munster. You're
I'm pretty
right. Sure. You're absolutely right. That is Herman Munster. I fucking completely forgot about that. You mentioned Lost Boys. Lost Boys is on my list. So, I'm gonna give you like a side story here. It's kind of comical. Like, Savannah really wasn't like into horror movies and stuff till she met me, and now she's gotten like some that she's become accustomed to. Just like we talked about on our last episode of Coldcast. Um, but one of them was Lost Boys, and you remember the Cry Sister song? Cry
Yeah.
Little. So we do a parody of that, and yes, we with our dogs, and we have our oldest dog Peanut, and he has many nicknames, and one of them happens to be Nutsack. So our parody of the song, "Cry Little Nutsack." Yeah, I know it's fucking stupid, but but yeah, Lost Boys is a great fucking movie. You know what? Like so many iconic scenes from that movie, but the best one for me by far is the motherfucker in the beginning playing the saxophone. Like the shirtless, long-haired
Oh my
mullet
gosh.
dude. Like
He is so popular at conventions.
I believe it. I
He-
totally believe it.
I think that's how he makes his money.
I
is
believe it.
He just goes to conventions, but he's everywhere.
Absolutely fucking love that opening sequence. Well, it's not really opening, but in the first 20 minutes, let's put it that way. Hellraiser makes my list. That movie still holds up and terrifies the shit out of me. And with like Pinhead and the puzzle box and shit. You know what really got to me in that movie is the ending where like the Cenobites are all like, got their shit into him, they're tearing him apart, and like his flesh is like kind of stretched out and stuff, and he's got blood coming out of his mouth, and he looks in the camera and it's like, uh, uh, and Jesus wept.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. Exorcist makes my list. Still scary as fuck to this day. Like I say, because I can see it happening. Who doesn't love a movie where they say your mother sucks cocks in hell? I've got a couple. So I guess the master of horror for me. I guess I'd say I'm looking at my list. I'd say John Carpenter because I got a couple of. I think I had. No, I didn't have. Yeah, I've got Halloween on my list. So Halloween, but for obvious reasons, it's fucking Halloween, man. Come on, man. Can't say enough about the thing. Like Mike was saying earlier, like holy fuck, that movie. Oh, that still holds up and so badass. And I'm gonna also say They Live. Fucking love They Live. It's got one of the best one-liners in movie history. It's got one of the best fight sequences in movie history. That goes on for literally you could clock it. It's at least over 5 minutes.
I think it's 8 minutes.
Is it 8? I believe
it's
it.
8
Yeah,
minutes.
just Roddy Piper and Keith David just beating the shit out of each other. But They Live is definitely on my list. I have to agree with Mike as well and say I love the Evil Dead series, but I'm going to go with Evil Dead 2. Just because I feel like it was just a lot more gore and they had a lot more of a budget to it. Creature from Black Lagoon's my all-time favorite fucking Universal movie monster. So that makes the list. Here's one we haven't talked about. I'm going to throw on there. And well, before I do that, let me say Nightmare on Elm Street's also on my list. So I got 2 more here. One of my all-time favorites. It's hard to come by. And it has actually different titles, but here in the U.S. it was known as Dead Alive, which was one of the first Peter Jackson films. And I remember watching the shit out of that, like back in the day, going to Blockbuster and renting it and stuff. But yes, that would definitely makes my list. And the best part for me on that movie, as gory as it was definitely the minister. And do you remember the part where the minister's like trying to fight off the zombie like creatures, and he knows kung fu apparently. But he takes his crucifix and turns it into like a fucking sharp like steak or something. But the best part is when and keep in mind this movie was made over New Zealand, so he's got the accent. But he looks well. He doesn't look in the camera, but he just like looks off to the side. He's like, "I kick ass for the Lord." Like, what the fuck? Oh my god, that is so incredible.
That's a great one-liner.
Yeah. And then to round out my movies, my Baker's Dozen, I'm going to go with a classic from 31, Freaks. Todd Browning's Freaks. Holy fuck. That movie still scares the fuck out of me
Yeah, I
today.
can see that.
The imagery in that, and like seeing the not the midget, but the guy who had no legs, like crawling
Right.
with the knife in his mouth, and yeah, Freaks is a badass old school horror movie. So that makes our Baker's Dozen. So yeah, this has been a fun little trip down memory lane, talking about like all sorts of horror movies, and we can honestly talk about this shit for hours and hours.
Days.
And yeah, you could literally make like a series, like and we probably will here at Coldcast eventually. Like I would love to just dive into. I was talking about Full Moon earlier. I could talk about them all fucking day. Hammer movies, like all that. But just in closing, like I know we talked about like our favorites, but like what would you say is just like the one, would you say is the most iconic moment in horror movie history? Just one of those, like, if you were somebody like who was a novice and didn't know shit about horror, what would you like watch this? Like, it doesn't even have to be a movie, like a scene or just something.
I don't know if I could even answer that question.
It's a tough one. I think for me, I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna go with Halloween. Like just the suspense of like the innocent babysitter and this motherfucker who like just can't be stopped, won't be stopped, and is just killing just to fucking like. I mean, yeah, I guess he had a motive or whatever, but just killing to just fucking kill. I think that to me, I would say that, but I mean, you could choose literally 20 to 30, 40 different things, but I'm going to say Halloween.
I can see that. I'm always going to probably go back to Texas Chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
The
movie, ending.
That movie just has this feeling like, okay, what if you and your buddies went cross country, you're heading out? That shit could happen. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get picked up by a cannibalistic family and it's going to turn you into barbecue. But I mean, how many times do we watch the news where somebody's out of town, they get killed, it's horrendous. I mean, that's what that story's all about. It's just the fear of of reality.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with horror. Yeah, it's the fact that like any of it that's like reality based, and granted, later years especially, it got over the top. But yeah, the scary shit that could happen. And there was one more thing we got to mention real quickly. We didn't even touch on Hitchcock.
Oh
fuck, man! Like Psycho, like that's probably the most iconic scenes from fucking Psycho. I would say, like with the shower and like the blood.
I don't consider him horror.
Oh, really?
More than thriller.
Well, that's true too. But like he would be what I would say like OG horror, like which was more so like thriller. Back then.
His stories are amazing.
Oh yeah,
like I love the birds. I mean,
the birds,
getting killed by a bunch of birds. I mean, it kind of works as like a monster movie.
I still like the suspense of like Vertigo, especially like when he gets into the room and the guy he's been watching and shit. So,
right.
Anyways, like
I just watched that the other day.
Yeah, I watched it about a couple weeks ago. Yeah. It's crazy stuff. But yeah, you guys should go out there, hop on Netflix. One thing we definitely recommend you should do is, if you don't have it already, get Shudder. Shudder is a phenomenal streaming service, and it's nothing but horror movies, man. And they got a shit ton of good stuff on there. Well, that's gonna about do it for this episode of Coldcast. So I hope you've enjoyed this ghoulish and spooktacular episode. I'm Jeremy, aka XLJ the OG, with Cousin Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, there'll be many, many more of these to come, my friends. So, all right, guys. Thanks again, and happy Halloween, everybody.